Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, also writing as Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I am here with my first cup of coffee. Nirvana. Today is Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day here in the US, maybe in other places, not Ireland so much, I understand. Uh, I only thought about it after I'd gotten dressed. So if you're on video, you will see that I almost like no scrap of green on me. I'm wearing pink today. It's not Wednesday. What was I thinking? I felt like wearing pink today. I'm very much a mood dresser, which apparently some people find very funny. But I have had my St. Patrick's Day nails, my green sparkly nails. So I've been making it a month long celebration. It's funny because I often wear green. I wear a lot of green. And like today is, well, at least I'm not wearing orange, right? If you know, you know. I am back from Tucson Festival of Books. I got back yesterday midday. I had some travel snafus on the way. It wasn't terrible, but there were hugely high winds in Albuquerque, and Albuquerque airport got backed way up, and I didn't get home until late, and ended up spending the night in Albuquerque rather than drive home when I was a zombie. Uh, and so yesterday I was still kind of tired, and um, I'm gonna have to just program in a buffer day for me after travel. I don't know, age, go figure. But if you're on video, you will see that I got my mug. I'm gonna bring it up to the camera. It's the Tucson Festival of Books, where words and imagination come to life. And this year's animal, they do an animal native to the Tucson area every year. And this year it's a jaguar with a cub. And you probably can't see, actually, no, they did do it on the mug. It's just even up, even in person, it's kind of hard to see. But they make all of the lines, the black and yeah, the black lines and everything are all letters. So the image is composed entirely of letters. And now we have Killian coming through. Yes, tail across the camera. He's still up here, but I've got his tail off of the camera. Although now it's lashing across my keyboard, so who knows what's going to happen at this point. Anyway, I got the t-shirt also, been there, got the t-shirt, also got my mug. And I got last year's t-shirt too because it was fruit bats. And I thought, well, I have to have fruit bats. Maybe that's not obvious to all of you. If you don't know why, ask me and I will elaborate on fruit bats. Otherwise, I want to tell you all a story of a thing that happened at the festival. So there's lots of stuff to tell about the festival. The long and short of it, the TLDR, is that I had a fabulous time. They treated me really well. They treated me like a rock star, which is just always amazing when you're a writer and not an actual rock star. And yes, um, I did take a picture of the person holding the sign for me at the airport, but it was a little bit sideways and not a great shot. And I decided not to ask her if I could share it. I don't know, but I did take it. We have a cat in the camera again. He's very happy to have me home. He missed me. So I want to tell you all this funny story. Okay, so the Saturday evening of the festival, like I was busy all day. I was really running from thing to thing all day. I went over there and I checked in. I ran into Jesse Mahalik and Katie Robert and chatted with them for a while, and John Scalzi. Got to say hello to everybody and went and purchased my souvenirs. So that was nice to be able to do. And then I went to the Steamy Lit booth where I signed with K.A. Lind, and she was delightful. We had a wonderful time. My publicist Jocelyn stopped by to see how I was doing, and she took good pictures of us. So that was really great, and sold tons of books. K.A. Lind, Kayla, ran out of all but one. I had a few left, but she ran out of all but one of hers. But it was pretty much nonstop signings the whole time. So that was great. And then I went from there to my first panel, which was with Julie Leong, who wrote The Teller of Small Tales, which is actually, let me show you. Oh, The Teller of Small Fortunes. Sorry, Julie, I got that wrong. There was the cautionary ring of the wind chimes as I showed the book. Anyway, I got this because Assistant Corrine wanted it signed, so I was able to slip over and buy this before the panel. And Julie was delightful panelist. Yeah, delightful person. I might tell you all the Hulk story. Alex Harrow was supposed to be on the panel too, but Alex got hung up with delayed flights. A lot of the authors did, scattered all across the country. I talked to Susan Williams. I think it's Susan Williams, not Suzanne, who was running the festival or the author coordinator. And she said, everything's great. Our authors are scattered all across the country, but whatever. There was the surprise storm. I think it was a surprise. The blizzard on the East Coast really caused a lot of havoc on people coming in. So Alex made it for the signing afterwards, but she did not make it for our panel. So it was just kind of the Jeffy and Julie show, or the Jennifer and Julie show. And we had a great time. Really excellent moderator who asked excellent questions. And it was funny because we were asked about writing sex scenes. The how do we do the technicality? And one thing about Julie is it turns out that she and I are sisters under the skin. We have like almost the exact same writing process, which almost never happens. Most authors, we have such wildly different processes, and mine's a little weird, as longtime listeners will know. But Julie also loves spreadsheets. She keeps spreadsheets, and she does a lot the same thing I do. She's very much right for discovery, and then tracks it by word count and chapter length and edits that way. So yeah, cheers to the spreadsheet method. Julie and I should do a workshop sometime. That would be entertaining. So anyway, they asked us about writing sex scenes and how did we develop the technical skill for writing sex scenes. And Julie went first and she said, well, you know how in the Marvel movies they ask Hulk how he is able to be angry on the spot in order to transform, and the Hulk says, I'm always angry. And everybody started laughing, and she looked abashed and she said, I mean, I'm always thinking about my story, and I'm always like tracking it in the spreadsheets and what I'm doing. And I said, that was not where I thought you were going with this. And but then of course it was immediately my turn, and I wanted to say, you know what, I am the Hulk, except that I am not always angry. And that was funny. And then I blushed. So TMI, right? But yeah, so that was great panel. Alex made it for the signing afterwards. Then they provided us with box lunches, which was delightful, and we sat outside and I ate with Nivo, who I'd not seen since the Columbus Book Festival, and we had a great time catching up. We talked about her upcoming book, and she showed me the amazing cover. The book is called The Scarlet Ball. The cover is amazing. It's on her website at nivo.com. That's NGEVO.com. hivo.com. It's a gorgeous cover. And she's going to send me a copy of the book. So I'm super excited about that. It was great to catch up with Nee, who is wonderful. And then I saw Alex had finally worked her way through her vast line of people and waved her over. So she came and sat and ate lunch with us. And we that's one of the best parts of these things is when you get to have these conversations with other authors like that. And so we had a great time chatting. And then it was time for our afternoon panel, which Alex was on with me and also Adrienne Young. Again, a really terrific moderator, asked great questions. I really enjoyed uh, meeting Alex. Just really a tremendous human being, an interesting person, and we had a great time on the panel. That one was on world building, I think. The morning panel was on heartbreak and healing from trauma. Julie had talked about that she was writing that book while her dad was in the hospital and was not expected to survive. So that was a good dovetail with Never the Roses. So then, after these things were all done, and it was hot, and I really was ready for a glass of wine. We were having a party. This is the story I've been leading with. You've been suffering through all this time waiting for this particular story, I hope. Um, so there was a reception at a bar that was being held for all the authors, and it started at 5:30, and I got there at 4:30. But I thought, what the hell, I'll just sit there with a glass of wine and read my book because I was ready. Have I mentioned for a glass of wine at this point? So I get to the bar, and it is wall to wall crammed with very excited students watching a basketball game on enormous television sets. When I say enormous, I mean like these could have been drive-in movie theater screens. Maybe not that big, but you know what I mean. And it was because we were on the University of Arizona campus and the U of A team was playing in some kind of basketball finals that were going on. And so it was very exciting. They did win. I know this because there was much chanting of U of A, U of A. Uh, so our party was on the rooftop there. And the bouncer said I could go up, but that the party wouldn't begin, the private event. And they had signs for this saying, event will begin after the game is over. So there I am on this rooftop bar, surrounded by students. And it was interesting to watch them. It was I heard other people bitching and complaining. I'll come to that later, but they were having a great time. When I was a college student, I don't know, I've never been much for watching sports, but I might have been there. But yes, they were drinking heavily and chanting, and these TV screens were up so loud. It was incredibly loud. And so I was kind of circling. I got my glass of wine and was kind of circling, caught up on some of my social media things, looking for a spot where I wasn't in direct line of the speakers because I'm I'm sensitive to sound. That's something I think not many people know about me, and actually I'm sort of learning to manage about myself. Uh, and so if I can find a place that's sort of like at a null point in the speakers, I do a lot better. So I was wandering around and hadn't really found a soft spot to land, and then I saw a group of guys get up from like one of those little couch circle deals. And it was, I think they gave up on it because you couldn't really see the screens from there, which was bonus for me. So I went and sat myself on these couches and sipped my wine and read my book, The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson. He has too many names. Robert Jackson Bennett, which I'm really enjoying. So I'm reading that on my phone. And, of course, I have my Tucson Festival of Books lanyard on. So this group of two men and a woman come up to me and they say, "Can we share your couch chairs?" And they are also wearing the Tucson Festival of Books lanyards. And I say, sure, have at it. It's so loud, conversation is almost impossible, but we say hello and yeah, waiting for it ended up that the game ended at like 5:35 or 5:40, so we're all just sort of waiting for this game to be over. And the two men are sort of holding forth, and this was some of the complaining, like one of them apparently was from there, and I didn't know who he was. I didn't recognize his name, but he had, I think, gone to U of A, and he was talking about, well, you know, students party so much these days, and that's all they do. I'm like, you know what? It's spring break, which it was. They have the festival during the university spring break. It's like, that's what college spring break is for, is partying, and it's a big sports event that involves the university's team, and it's a Saturday evening and Saturday afternoon. That's what I would want to be doing, right up there on the rooftop bar. So I always think it's funny when older generations are like, those younger generations just don't know how to work. Whatever, dude. So then the other person was a woman whose name I did not recognize, and she had her it was an initial name, like one initial and then her last name, and I didn't recognize either. And I said hello and introduced myself, and just by name, and asked her what the initials stood for. If I never know, like when people have initial names, do they want to be called the initial? Like I asked K.A. Lind that, right? Do you want to be K.A. or? And that was when she said, no, it's Kayla. So this gal told me her name, and I said, what do you write? And she, and admittedly, it's very loud, and but she's sitting right next to me, right? So I say, what do you write? People, do you want to know what she answered me? She says, fiction. I'm just going to pause there. That's a real pause. She said fiction. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I could have had a 50-50 shot, right, in guessing. What do you write? Fiction or nonfiction, right? It's like nobody answers this question this way, fiction. And so I say, well, that's a rather large umbrella. I'm still trying to be nice. That's a rather large umbrella. What kind of fiction? And she spreads her hands helplessly as if, who is she to educate me on what fiction is? and and then she scrabbles in her tote bag and hands me a postcard about her book, singular. And I don't mean to be snotty about that, but I'm sorry. If you've written one book, it's really easy to tell people what you write beyond saying fiction. And by saying this, she of course meant that she writes literary fiction, which she thinks is the only kind of fiction that exists. And so her book was a collection of short stories about a particular geographical location. I won't say what it is because I'm not really interested in outing her in particular, but it's a unique geographical location. And if it had been me, I would have said, uh, I wrote I write short stories. I have a new collection of stories about this fascinating geographical region. That's a really easy answer. And she did say, well, it's very loud, but um, we established that we were staying at the same hotel, and she said, well, maybe we could walk back together. Actually, she said we should walk back together, and I was like, sure, thinking, let's see how that works out, because I know, like, I'm not going to be leaving for a while, right? Once the TVs are off and I'm settling in, I'm talking to my friends, who I then found after this. But that's been one of my takeaway tales of the book festival, because, and I'm just going to say this because I know a lot of you out there listening to this are also authors. I know a lot of you are readers too. So if an author is snotty to you in this way, and I'm sorry, this is snotty behavior, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to take that. It's somebody who, it's very, very easy. This is my advice for the authors. It is very, very easy to have a one sentence description of what it is you write. And I think all of you know this. And especially if you're a newer author and you've only written one or two things, you can pick one book and you can say, I wrote a book about this. Um, Answering someone that you write fiction is, yeah, no. So, anyway, that's my rant of the week. I will tell you more things on Friday because I'm already out of time. But I'm glad to be back. I'm ready to really get cranking on Blade's books on the Bandit. And I will talk to you all on Friday. You all take care. Bye bye.